The rain came down like nails on the windshield. Lucas Reed squinted through the darkness, his hands tight on the wheel of his 15-year-old truck. The dashboard clock glowed 11:47 p.m. If he pushed it, he'd be home by midnight. Maybe Emily would still be awake, waiting by the window like she always did. Maybe he'd get to be her father for 3 more days. The highway stretched empty through Ridgeway's outskirts. No streetlights out here. Just rain and dark and the white lines disappearing under his tires. Lucas had been awake since 5 that morning. 6 hours at Morton's auto shop, then 9 hours delivering packages across 3 counties. His back screamed, his eyes burned. But the rent was due, and Emily needed new shoes, and there was the lawyer's retainer he still owed half of. 3 days from now, a judge would decide if he was good enough. The hearing had been postponed twice already. Each time, Lucas had taken unpaid time off work, worn his one good shirt, sat in that courthouse waiting room with his stomach in knots. Each time, Natalie's lawyer had filed new motions, found new reasons to delay. She wanted Emily back. Not because she missed her daughter. Lucas knew that much. Natalie had barely called in 8 months. But her new husband had money, and money wanted to win. Lucas was losing by every measure that mattered to family court. Unstable income, check. Irregular hours, check. No college degree, check. Living in a 2-bedroom apartment in the old part of town instead of a 4-bedroom house in Meadowbrook Estates, check and check. Never mind that Emily's grades had gone from C's to A's since she'd been with him. Never mind that she'd stopped flinching when adults raised their voices. Never mind that she smiled now, real smiles that reached her eyes. None of that fit on the court's evaluation forms. Lucas passed the exit for Pinewood Inn. 5 miles to home. He thought about Emily's face that morning when he'd left for work. She'd made him promise to come home before she fell asleep. Even if it's late? She'd asked. Even if it's late. Because in 3 days. Don't think about that, sweetheart. We're going to be okay. But Emily was 6, and 6-year-olds knew when adults were lying. The rain got heavier. Lucas turned the wipers to full speed. They barely kept up. He should pull over. Wait it out, but every minute on the road was a minute away from Emily, and he didn't have many minutes left to waste. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. Another delivery request. Lucas ignored it. He was done for the night, done for the week, done with everything except getting home to his daughter. The truck's heater rattled but barely worked. Lucas wore 2 layers under his jacket. His thermos of coffee had gone cold hours ago. He'd skipped lunch to make an extra delivery. The $20 tip had been worth it. $20 closer to keeping Emily. The math never worked, no matter how many times he did it. Natalie's lawyer had probably spent more on his tie than Lucas made in a week. The evaluator had written in her report that Emily would have more opportunities in a stable 2-parent household with financial security. More opportunities to be raised by a woman who'd forgotten her birthday last year. Lucas gripped the wheel tighter. 3 more days. Then maybe if there was any justice in the world, he'd get to keep being the person Emily ran to when she had nightmares. The person who knew she liked her sandwiches cut in triangles and hated the crusts. The person who'd learned to braid hair from YouTube videos at 2 in the morning. The person who loved her more than anything in this world. The rain hammered down. Lucas drove on. The car appeared like a ghost through the rain. Lucas almost missed it. A dark sedan pulled halfway onto the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly through the downpour. Expensive car, foreign make, not the kind that usually broke down on this stretch of highway. He was past it before his brain registered the 2 figures standing in the rain. Lucas checked his mirror. 2 young women, maybe college age, huddled against the driver's side door. One held a phone up like she was trying to get signal. The rain soaked through their clothes. He should keep driving. He was already late. Emily was waiting. The hearing was in 3 days, and he couldn't afford complications. Couldn't afford anything that might make him look unreliable, including showing up home at 1 in the morning because he'd stopped to help strangers. His lawyer had been clear. Keep your head down. No surprises. Show up on time. Every time. Let's not give them any ammunition. Lucas watched the scene shrink in his mirror. The girl with the phone lowered her arm. Defeated. They weren't dressed for this weather. Light jackets, regular shoes. They'd probably been expecting a quick drive home, not stranded in a storm. 3 cars passed them without slowing. Lucas thought about Emily, 6 years old, standing in the rain, hoping someone would stop. He hit the brakes. The truck fishtailed slightly as he pulled onto the shoulder. Lucas put it in reverse, backing up carefully until his taillights lit up the stranded sedan. Through his rear window, he saw both girls turn, hope and caution mixing on their faces. He understood the caution. 2 young women alone on a dark highway. A strange man in a beat-up truck pulling over. They were probably running through their safety protocols right now, deciding if this was help or danger. Lucas turned on his interior light so they could see him clearly. Then he grabbed his emergency poncho from behind the seat and stepped out into the rain. "Car trouble?" he called out, staying by his truck's door. The taller of the 2 girls stepped forward. Even soaked and miserable, she had the kind of confident posture that came from never having to question her place in the world. The engine died. Everything just shut off. "Phone too," the other one added. She looked like her sister. Twins, Lucas realized. Same features, different expressions. This one seemed more worried. "We can't call anyone. There's no signal out here anyway," Lucas said. "Not until you hit town." He gestured at his truck. "I've got tools. I can take a quick look, but in this rain, I probably can't do much." The first twin, the confident one, exchanged glances with her sister. They were having one of those silent conversations that twins supposedly had. "We don't want to trouble you," the worried one said. "You're not," Lucas replied. Though they were. He was losing minutes. But he was here now, and he couldn't leave them. "Let me check the engine. If it's something simple, maybe we can get you going. If not, I can at least get you somewhere dry." The confident twin nodded slowly. "That would be really kind." Lucas grabbed his flashlight. The rain poured down harder. The hood wouldn't open at first, swollen from the rain and the humidity. Lucas wedged his fingers under the edge and pulled hard. It gave with a groan that probably cost more to fix than his entire truck was worth. He propped it open and shone his flashlight into the engine compartment. The 2 girls huddled together a few feet away, watching. The rain drummed on the raised hood like it was trying to beat its way through the metal. "I'm Ava," the confident one said, raising her voice over the storm. "This is my sister, Lily." "Lucas." He traced the flashlight beam over the engine. Everything looked clean. Too clean. This car probably saw the inside of a dealership service bay more often than his truck saw a gas station. "When did it die?" "Just suddenly," Lily said. Her teeth were chattering. "All the lights went out." "Everything." Lucas checked the battery terminals. Tight. No corrosion. He tried to wiggle the cables. Nothing loose. But when he touched the battery itself, it was ice cold. "Battery's dead," he said. "Completely drained." "You been running the AC a lot? Listening to music with the engine off?" "No." Ava frowned. "We were just driving home from the city. We'd only been on the road maybe 20 minutes. Battery probably was already on its way out." Sometimes they just give up all at once. Lucas closed the hood. "I don't have cables that'll reach my truck from this angle, and I can't jump it in this rain anyway. Too dangerous. So, we're stuck?" Lily's voice climbed higher. "I can take you into town. There's a hotel about 4 miles up. Pinewood Inn. Nothing fancy, but it's clean. You can call a tow from there, charge your phones." The twins looked at each other again. That silent conversation. Lucas understood their hesitation. He was a stranger in a rainstorm, offering rides. Every true crime podcast started this way, but he also saw their situation clearly. Stranded, soaked, phones dead, and no help coming. "Look," he said, keeping his voice level. "I've got a daughter. She's 6. If she was stuck out here, I'd hope someone decent would stop. So I'm offering, but I understand if you want to wait for someone else." "No one else has stopped," Ava said quietly. They'd been standing here how long? 15 minutes? 20? And how many cars had driven past? "My truck's a mess," Lucas warned. "Smells like motor oil and coffee. Heater barely works, but it's dry and it runs, and I promise the only place I'm taking you is straight to that hotel." Lily was shaking now, not just from cold, from fear, exhaustion, the weight of a bad situation getting worse. "We accept," Ava said. She put her arm around her sister. Lucas nodded. "Grab whatever you need from the car. Lock it up." While they gathered their things, Lucas cleared the passenger seat of his truck. Empty coffee cups, work gloves, a spare pair of boots. He threw it all in the back, found an old blanket that was mostly clean, and draped it over the seat. The twins climbed in, Lily taking the window seat, Ava in the middle. They were still shivering. Lucas cranked the heat as high as it would go. The engine rattled in protest but obeyed. 4 miles, he said, pulling back onto the highway. "You'll be somewhere warm in 10 minutes. In his mind, he calculated. Home by 12:30 now. Emily would definitely be asleep. Another promise broken, but some things mattered more than being on time. The Pinewood Inn materialized through the rain like a refuge. Its neon sign flickered vacancy in pink and blue. The building was old, probably hadn't been updated since the 80s. But the parking lot was well lit, and the front office windows glowed warm. Lucas pulled under the covered entrance. "Here you go." Ava and Lily didn't move immediately. They sat there, the 3 of them, listening to the rain hammer the roof of the truck. The heater had finally started working. The cab had gone from freezing to almost comfortable. "Thank you," Lily said. Her voice was steadier now. "Most people didn't," Ava added. There was something in her tone, not quite bitterness, but close. "Disappointment, maybe." "We counted. 12 cars passed before you came back." Lucas shrugged. "I'm not most people." "No," Ava said. She was studying him now, really looking at him. Taking in the worn jacket, the calluses on his hands, the tiredness etched into his face. "You're definitely not." "Where were you coming from?" Lucas asked. "The city. We were visiting friends. Dad was supposed to pick us up, but something came up at work." Last minute, Ava's expression went complicated. "Story of our lives. Something always comes up." Lucas knew that look. He'd seen it on Emily's face when Natalie canceled another visit. That particular kind of hurt that came from being someone's second priority. "He's busy," Lily said quickly, defensive. "Important job. He can't always." "It's okay," Ava interrupted gently. "We're not kids anymore. We understand." But her eyes said she didn't. Not really. Understanding and accepting were different things. Lucas thought about his own situation, working himself to exhaustion just to be present, to be there when Emily needed him. It never felt like enough, but at least he was trying. "I've got a daughter," he said. "Emily. She's 6, and 3 days from now I have to convince a judge that I deserve to keep raising her." He didn't know why he said it. Exhaustion, maybe. Or the strange intimacy that came from helping strangers in a storm. But once it was out, he couldn't take it back. Both twins turned to him. "That's terrible," Lily said. "Why wouldn't you get to keep her?" "Because her mom has money, and I don't. Because I work too much trying to make rent. Because the system doesn't care that Emily's happy, just that her life looks right on paper." Silence filled the truck. Then, Ava reached over and squeezed his arm. Just once. Brief, but real. "I hope the judge sees what we see," she said. "Someone who stops when no one else will. Someone who shows up even when it costs them something." Lucas felt his throat tighten. "Me too," he managed. The twins gathered their bags and stepped out into the rain. Lucas watched them run for the office door. Just before they went inside, Ava turned back and waved. Lucas waved back. Then he drove home to Emily. The apartment was dark when Lucas finally unlocked the door. 12:41 a.m. Later than he'd promised. Later than he'd hoped. Mrs. Patterson from 3B was asleep on his couch, her knitting in her lap. She stirred when Lucas closed the door, blinking awake with the confusion of someone dragged from deep sleep. "Lucas. You're home. I'm sorry, Mrs. Patterson. I got held up." He pulled his wallet out, counting out the bills he'd tucked away for her. Babysitting money. Another expense. Thank you for staying. She waved off the money at first, like she always did, then took it because she needed it, like she always did. Mrs. Patterson was 72 and living on a fixed income. Lucas knew the dance. "Emily asked about you 3 times, she said, gathering her things. "Wanted to wait up. I told her you'd be here when she woke up in the morning. I will be. I know you will, honey. You're a good father. That judge will see it." Mrs. Patterson patted his cheek like he was one of her grandchildren. "Have faith." After she left, Lucas locked the door and stood in the quiet of his home. Their apartment was small. Living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms barely bigger than closets. The furniture was second-hand. The carpet was stained in places Lucas couldn't afford to fix. The whole place smelled faintly of the Chinese restaurant downstairs, but there were drawings on the fridge. Emily's artwork, bright with marker and pride. There were books stacked by the couch library, books they read together every night. There was her pink backpack hanging by the door, ready for school. There were photos on the walls, mostly taken on his phone and printed at the drugstore. Emily at the park. Emily at her birthday party. Emily laughing at something Lucas had already forgotten but the photo remembered. This was home. This was what he was fighting for. Lucas walked to Emily's room and eased the door open. She was curled up under her blanket, the one with the butterflies that she'd picked out at Goodwill. Her nightlight cast stars on the ceiling. She'd been asking for the ceiling to be painted with glow-in-the-dark stars, but that cost money Lucas didn't have. The nightlight was the compromise. He sat on the edge of her bed. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, half asleep. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm home." Emily sat up and wrapped her arms around his neck. She smelled like the lavender soap Mrs. Patterson used. "You promised. I know. I'm sorry. It's okay." But she held him tighter. "Daddy, what if the judge says no?" Lucas pulled back so he could see her face. In the dim light, she looked so much like him. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. None of Natalie in her at all. "Then we'll figure it out," he said. "But I think the judge is going to say yes." "How do you know?" "Because you're happy here, and that's what matters. Mom's lawyer said I'd have more stuff. Better stuff. A bigger room and a better school and, do you want that?" Emily looked down at her hands. "I want to stay with you." "Then that's what we'll tell the judge." What if he doesn't listen? Lucas didn't have an answer for that, so he just held her instead, feeling her heartbeat against his chest, feeling the weight of what he stood to lose. "His name is Judge Henry Carter," Emily said quietly. "I heard Mrs. Patterson say it on the phone. She was telling someone." "Judge Henry Carter," Lucas repeated. The name meant nothing to him. Just another person in a robe deciding someone else's life. "Okay, do you think he's nice?" "I think he's fair. That's better than nice." Emily yawned. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "Always." Lucas sat with her until her breathing went slow and even. Then he sat a little longer, memorizing this moment. Just in case. The Ridgway County Courthouse was built in 1952 and looked every year of its age. Lucas sat on a wooden bench in the hallway outside Courtroom 3, his hands clasped between his knees. His lawyer, Sandra Mendez, overworked and underpaid from the public defender's office, sat next to him, reviewing notes she'd reviewed 100 times already. "Remember," Sandra said quietly, "answer the questions directly. Don't volunteer extra information. Don't get emotional. And whatever you do, don't let Natalie's lawyer bait you into losing your temper." "I won't. You say that now. But Richard Vance is very good at what he does, and what he does is make decent people look bad." Lucas had met Richard Vance once during a deposition. Three-piece suit, perfect hair, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. He'd asked Lucas questions designed to make him sound neglectful. How many days had he worked double shifts? How often was Emily with babysitters instead of him? Had he missed any of her doctor's appointments? The answers were many, often, and once because he'd been in the emergency room with a dislocated shoulder from lifting an engine block wrong. None of his explanations had made it into Vance's notes. Down the hall, Natalie arrived with her entourage. She looked different than Lucas remembered. Polished. Put together. Her hair was professionally styled. Her clothes probably cost more than his rent. Her new husband, Derek something, a regional manager for some tech company, walked beside her with his hand on her back. Protective, possessive, playing the role of stable stepfather. Natalie glanced at Lucas once. No expression. Like he was a stranger instead of someone she'd shared a life with, someone she'd made a child with. "Don't react," Sandra murmured. Lucas didn't. The bailiff opened the courtroom doors. "Judge Carter is ready." They filed in, Lucas and Sandra on one side, Natalie, Derek, and Richard Vance on the other. The room smelled like old wood and older disappointments. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Lucas had been in this room twice before. Both times, they'd postponed before the hearing really started. But today felt different. Today felt final. The bailiff stood. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Henry Carter presiding. Everyone stood. The judge entered from his chambers, and Lucas stopped breathing. Judge Henry Carter was probably in his mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, sharp eyes behind wire-rim glasses, the kind of face that had seen everything and believed very little. He wore his authority like a well-tailored suit, comfortable and absolute. But that wasn't what made Lucas's heart stop. It was the eyes. He'd seen those eyes before, 2 nights ago, in his rearview mirror, in 2 faces standing in the rain. Ava and Lily. The judge was their father. Judge Carter took his seat and opened the file in front of him. He looked up, scanning the room. His gaze passed over Natalie and her lawyer, over Sandra, and then landed on Lucas. Recognition flickered across his face, subtle, almost invisible. But Lucas saw it. The judge knew. "Be seated," Judge Carter said. His voice was measured, controlled, giving nothing away. "We're here today for the matter of custody regarding Emily Reed, minor child of Lucas Reed and Natalie Reed. Counsel. Are both parties present and ready to proceed?" "Yes, Your Honor," Richard Vance said smoothly. "Yes, Your Honor," Sandra echoed. Judge Carter's eyes met Lucas's again, just for a second. Then he looked down at his notes. "Then let's begin." Lucas's hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against his thighs. This was it. Everything he'd fought for came down to the next few hours. And the man deciding his fate was the father of the girls he'd helped in the storm. The hearing started with procedures. Richard Vance stood and painted his picture. Natalie had made mistakes, yes, but she'd gotten help. She was stable now, remarried, living in a proper house. She could provide Emily with opportunities that Lucas simply couldn't match. He made poverty sound like child abuse, Sandra countered. Emily was thriving with Lucas. Her teachers praised her progress. Her pediatrician noted improved emotional health. Stability wasn't about money, it was about consistency, and Lucas had been consistently present. She made love sound like enough. Through it all, Judge Carter listened. He took notes. He asked clarifying questions. His face revealed nothing. Lucas watched him and wondered. Did the judge remember? Did it matter? Was Lucas about to lose his daughter to a man whose children he'd rescued? Or would that somehow save him? He couldn't tell. Then Vance called Natalie to the stand. She testified about her recovery, about the steps she'd taken, about missing her daughter. She cried at the right moments, said all the right things. Derek watched from his seat with supportive concern perfectly arranged on his face. When Sandra cross-examined, she asked about the 6 months Natalie had gone without calling Emily. "I was working on myself," Natalie said. "I didn't want Emily to see me struggling. But it's acceptable for her to see her father struggling? That's different. Because Lucas chose this. He chose to make things harder than they needed to be. I'm offering Emily a better life." Lucas felt his jaw clench. Sandra had warned him. "Don't react. Don't react." He didn't. Then it was Lucas's turn. Sandra asked him gentle questions. About his work? About Emily's routine? About their relationship? Lucas answered carefully. Honestly. He talked about homework and bedtime stories. About learning to braid hair and cook meals Emily would actually eat. About being there. Then Vance stood for cross-examination. "Mr. Reed, how many hours did you work last week?" 72. "And the week before?" 68. "Who was watching Emily during those hours?" "Mrs. Patterson, our neighbor." "And Emily was in school for most of—" "Yes or no, Mr. Reed? Was Emily with you during those hours?" Vance smiled. "Your Honor, we could continue, but I think the pattern is clear. Mr. Reed works constantly because he can barely afford to house and feed his daughter. Emily deserves better than surviving. She deserves to thrive." Judge Carter held up his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. I've heard enough for now." He looked at both lawyers. "We'll take a short recess, 30 minutes. When we return, I'll issue my decision." The bailiff called recess. Everyone stood as Judge Carter exited to his chambers. But before he left, he paused. "Mr. Reed, could I see you in my chambers, please? And Miss Mendez, you as well." Vance immediately objected. "Your Honor, if you're speaking with one party, I should be." "You should be nothing, Mr. Vance. I'm speaking with Mr. Reed about a separate matter. You'll be informed if it becomes relevant to this proceeding." Judge Carter's tone left no room for argument. Lucas followed Sandra through the door, marked Chambers. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it. The judge's office was smaller than Lucas expected. Books lined the walls. A window overlooked the parking lot. Photos on the desk, and yes, there they were. Ava and Lily, smiling in their graduation gowns. Judge Carter closed the door and turned to face Lucas. 2 nights ago, he said quietly, Highway 47. During the storm, you stopped for 2 stranded girls. Your daughters? Lucas said. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's the point. Judge Carter removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. I need you to understand something, Mr. Reed. What I'm about to tell you has nothing to do with the fact that you helped my daughters. Do you understand? Lucas nodded, not trusting his voice. I've been a judge for 19 years. I've seen hundreds of custody cases. I know what good parenting looks like. And I know what it doesn't look like. He picked up a folder from his desk. This is your ex-wife's background check. The expanded version. Judge Carter opened the folder. Lucas saw pages of documents, reports, records, things he'd never seen before. When your case kept getting postponed, I did something I rarely do, the judge said. I started digging deeper. Not because of you, because something about Mrs. Reed's presentation didn't sit right with me. He pulled out a sheet of paper. In 2019, she was arrested for possession of controlled substances. The charge was reduced to misdemeanor possession, expunged from her record as part of a diversion program. Lucas felt cold. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. It happened 6 months before you met her. She was careful. Got clean. Met you. Had Emily. Judge Carter pulled out another document. Then, in 2022, she entered an inpatient treatment facility for substance abuse. That's when you separated, isn't it? She told me she was visiting her mother. Her mother has been deceased since 2018. Judge Carter's voice was gentle but firm. Mr. Reed, your ex-wife's lawyer has been painting a picture of rehabilitation and stability. But rehabilitation requires honesty. And Mrs. Reed has been lying to this court about her history. Sandra leaned forward. Your Honor, with all due respect, substance abuse and recovery are complicated. Many people with addiction histories become excellent parents. I agree completely, Miss Mendez. I'm not concerned about her past addiction. I'm concerned about her current dishonesty. He pulled out more pages. 3 weeks ago, Mrs. Reed tested positive for amphetamines during a routine physical. Her doctor noted it in her records. She claimed it was a prescription. Was it? Lucas asked. No, there's no prescription on file with any pharmacy in the state. Her new husband has a prescription for ADHD medication. I believe she's been taking his pills. Judge Carter looked directly at Lucas. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know the truth about who might be raising your daughter. Lucas's mind was reeling. Natalie was using again. After everything. After all her promises. But none of this would have come to light, Judge Carter continued, if I hadn't been thorough. And I wasn't thorough because you helped my daughters. I was thorough because when I saw your name on the docket 3 days ago before I knew who you were, I decided to treat this case the way I treat every case. With complete attention, he set the folder down. My daughters called me the night of the storm. They told me about you, about how you stopped when no one else would, how you were respectful, how you talked about Emily with such obvious love. Judge Carter's expression softened slightly. Ava said something that stuck with me. She said, he's driving home to his daughter in a rainstorm after working all day, and he still stopped to help us. That's who he is, Your Honor, Sandra said carefully. Are you saying? I'm saying that I verified everything they told me. I called Emily's school. I spoke with your landlord. I talked to Mrs. Patterson. I reviewed Emily's medical records, her grades, her attendance. He looked at Lucas. Do you know what I found? Lucas shook his head. A girl who's flourished in your care. A girl whose teacher said, and I quote, Emily talks about her dad constantly. She lights up when he picks her up. Whatever he's doing, it's working. Judge Carter smiled faintly. I also found a man who works 2 jobs, never misses a parent-teacher conference, and installed cabinet locks and outlet covers even though his apartment is a rental. The landlord mentioned that, Lucas said quietly. Said most tenants don't bother. Most tenants aren't thinking about their daughter's safety every minute of every day. Judge Carter closed the folder. Mr. Reed, I want to be very clear. The decision I'm about to make has nothing to do with what you did for my family. It has everything to do with what you do for yours. Then why tell me all this? Lucas asked. Because you've been fighting blind. You thought you were losing. You thought the system was stacked against you because you're poor. Judge Carter met his eyes. You were right. It is stacked against you. The system prefers families that look good on paper. But I don't judge on paper. I judge on evidence. He stood. Let's go back to court. I have a decision to make official. The courtroom felt different when they returned. Lucas couldn't explain it. Same fluorescent lights, same wooden benches, same people. But the air had changed. Something had shifted. Natalie noticed it too. She kept glancing at Vance, who kept glancing at Judge Carter, who revealed nothing. All rise, the bailiff announced. They stood. Judge Carter took his seat and arranged the papers in front of him with deliberate care. He was taking his time, making them wait. Lucas understood it was part of the process, but every second felt like an hour. "Be seated." They sat. "I've reviewed all materials submitted by both parties," Judge Carter began. "I've heard testimony from both parents. I've examined financial records, home studies, and character references. This is never an easy decision, but it's one I take seriously." He looked up from his notes. "Mr. Vance, your argument rests primarily on financial stability and conventional markers of success. Mrs. Reed has a stable marriage, a comfortable home, and resources that Mr. Reed admittedly lacks." Natalie sat up straighter. Derek put his hand on hers. Vance allowed himself a small smile. "However," Judge Carter continued, "and that one word changed everything. This court's primary concern is not comfort. It's the well-being of the child, and well-being is not measured in square footage or bank account balances." The smile left Vance's face. "Miss Mendez, your argument focuses on Emily's emotional health and her father's commitment. The evidence supports this. Emily's grades have improved dramatically in Mr. Reed's care. Her teacher reports she's more confident, more engaged, and more consistently prepared for school." Judge Carter pulled out a document. "I had an independent investigator speak with several individuals who know both parties. The results were telling. Mr. Reed's neighbors describe him as devoted. Emily's pediatrician notes significant improvement in her emotional regulation. Even the staff at her school commented on the positive changes they've observed." He set the document down. "Mrs. Reed, I have concerns about the picture your lawyer has presented versus the reality of your situation." Natalie's face went pale. "You testified that you've been sober and stable for 2 years, that you're ready to provide Emily with a better home. But medical records tell a different story." Vance stood abruptly. "Your Honor, I object." "What medical records?" "We weren't provided." "Because you didn't request them." "I did, as is my right in custody proceedings when I have concerns about a parent's fitness." Judge Carter's voice was sharp. "Mrs. Reed, you tested positive for amphetamines 3 weeks ago. When confronted by your physician, you claimed a prescription you don't have. Furthermore, you've misrepresented your history of substance abuse to this court." Natalie's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Derek turned to look at her, shock on his face. He hadn't known. "Your Honor," Vance tried again, "my client's past struggles with addiction don't disqualify." "No, they don't. But lying to this court does. As does current evidence of substance abuse." Judge Carter's expression was stern. "Mrs. Reed, I've seen recovery work. I've seen people overcome addiction and become excellent parents. But recovery requires honesty. It requires work. And it requires putting your child's needs before your pride." Tears ran down Natalie's face. But Lucas couldn't tell if they were genuine or performative. Judge Carter turned to Lucas. "Mr. Reed, you work too much. Your apartment is too small. Your truck is 20 years old and should probably fail inspection. On paper, you don't look like the ideal parent." Lucas held his breath. "But parenting isn't done on paper. It's done in the moments between work and sleep. It's done in patience and presence and showing up every single day." Judge Carter's voice softened. "Emily needs a parent who sees her as a priority, not an acquisition. She needs consistency. She needs love." He picked up his gavel. "Therefore, it is the ruling of this court that full physical custody of Emily Reed remains with Lucas Reed. Mrs. Reed will be granted supervised visitation pending completion of a substance abuse evaluation and treatment program." The gavel came down. The sound echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Lucas couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The words took a moment to penetrate. He'd won. Emily was his. Sandra gripped his arm. "Lucas, we won." Then he was crying. Right there in the courtroom, shoulders shaking, relief pouring out of him in great, gasping sobs. He'd fought for 18 months. Through delays and depositions and endless uncertainty. Through poverty and exhaustion and the constant fear of losing the only person who mattered. And he'd won. Emily was sitting on the front steps when Lucas pulled up. She'd been watching for his truck. The moment it appeared around the corner, she was on her feet, running down the sidewalk before Lucas had even parked. He caught her as she jumped into his arms. "Daddy!" "Hey, sweetheart," Mrs. Patterson told me. "She said you won. She said I get to stay. You get to stay." Lucas held her tighter. "Forever." Emily pulled back to look at his face. "You're crying. Happy crying. Adults are weird." But she was crying too. Happy tears that she wiped away with the back of her hand. They sat on the steps together, Emily tucked under Lucas's arm. The sun was setting. The street was quiet. In the Chinese restaurant below their apartment, someone was cooking dinner. The smell drifted through the evening air. "Can we get pizza tonight?" Emily asked. "Anything you want." "Anything?" "Within reason." Emily grinned. "Pizzas, within reason. Pizza it is." They sat there a while longer, watching the light fade. Lucas thought about everything that had led to this moment. The storm, the stranded car, the decision to stop when he'd wanted to keep driving. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Reed, this is Ava Carter. My dad told us about the hearing. Lily and I wanted to say congratulations. You deserve every happiness. And Emily is lucky to have you." Below it, another message. "P.S. Dad wants to know if you and Emily would like to come to dinner next Sunday. No pressure. Just a thank you." Lucas looked down at Emily. "How do you feel about having dinner with some new friends?" "What kind of friends?" "The kind who stood in the rain until someone stopped." Emily thought about this. "Okay, but only if they like pizza." Lucas smiled and typed his response. 3 months later, they were regulars at the Carter house. Ava and Lily had adopted Emily as their unofficial little sister. They took her to movies and taught her to paint and included her in their plans with the unconscious kindness of people who knew what it meant to be lonely. Judge Carter learned to leave work at work. He came home for dinner. He showed up to things. He became present in a way his daughters had stopped expecting. And Lucas learned something he'd forgotten. That community mattered. That asking for help wasn't weakness. That he didn't have to carry everything alone. One evening, sitting on the Carter's porch while Emily and the twins played in the yard, Judge Carter said, "You know what the irony is? What's that? You stopped in that storm because you hoped someone would do the same for Emily. But Emily didn't need saving from a storm." Judge Carter smiled. She needed saving from a system that measures worth by all the wrong metrics. And you did that yourself. Lucas watched his daughter laugh, carefree and certain of her place in the world. "We saved each other," he said. And he meant it.